little leg. What if questions, and they're going, what if I lose my job, or just what if this? We have to understand what they're based in. Where people have no knowledge, you have knowledge at this end, and you have fear there. Where people have no knowledge, they will default to fear. Where people have knowledge, there is no fear. Where people have no knowledge, the fear will fault. In the subject area, how much knowledge do you believe this person has about what's going on? Not much. Therefore, they'll default to fear. No one will ever tell you they're in fear mode around what's happening right now. Before I did this and I learned about planes, pilots would come on and I'd ask them 1,000 questions about how the wings are stuck on and what happens in this and what happens in that and what happens in this and what happens to that. Where there is fear, people will not, they're fearful, they'll ask questions. When you replace fear with knowledge, there are no questions. Okay, here's the point. When you're with sellers, they don't know what you're talking about. They will default to fear mode. When they default to fear mode, they will ask you questions. Like, what about this? What if? What if? These are fear-based questions. They're not reality-based questions. You only ever answer it if you get asked the question a second time. To prove this, and this is how you prove it to yourself. When people ask you questions, if you now realise that 99% of all those questions are based around fear, which means they're not real questions, when you say to those people, what would you like to see happen? And they go, blah, 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 blah. So, well, let's just make sure that's in the paperwork. Put that down, we'll make sure it's in the paperwork. Put that down, we'll make sure it's in the paperwork. How many times have you guys ever done paperwork and the person's gone through every one of those fear-based questions to check that the answer has been specially added to the paperwork? Never happens, never will. No one ever gets the paperwork and says, I just want to check, Mr. Otten, that all 500 and those 14 things were written in the paperwork because you said it would be written in. They were never real questions. They were fear-based questions. People always ask questions where there's fear, there's no knowledge. Please understand this. The kiss of death is for you to start answering those questions. They weren't real questions. If you start answering them, they take you to the AM, below the line, your transaction will fall apart. If you understand, like the gentleman says, who's a pilot, that they're fear-based questions about the fact that I'm out of my comfort zone, people just want the reassurance answer, which is reassurance. What would you like to see happen? I'd like to know that I can do this, 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 this. Simon, let's just make sure you write that in the form. It's in the paperwork. And then you go, the pilot's saving me, the plane, the wings won't fall off. You with me? And you go, blah, blah. But you will never ask me to see that in the paperwork. It was not a real question.